Wait for some folks to get on board. It's been a while, hasn't it? Yep. It's been so long. No one's even hopping on. That's funny. But like I said, we'll raid around and see if we get some folks in here. Oh, okay. What's up, guys? What's up? What's up? What's up, folks? Come on in. Come on. Come on. Said you were right about H bar and XLM. You know what, man? In all honesty, it was never about being right for myself. It was just about trying to help folks out, man. That's all. If I'm right, I'm right, you know, and the only thing I can hope for is that I'm right more than I'm wrong, because it helps out. But I appreciate it. You said I'm going bald? No, I'm not. I just have a big forehead, man. That's all. Yeah, my forehead is big, man. I've always had a big forehead. I told you guys this before, man. That's why everyone thinks I'm freaking Ethiopian in Seattle. Because I got a big ass forehead. Wait for everybody to get on board. XSP, I mean, it's essentially XDC Networks Uniswap. I mean, I definitely see the utility in that for sure. Yeah, I get asked that a lot. You Ethiopian? And like I said, it's probably because I have a big ass forehead. And lo and behold, I have a lot of East African in me per my DNA. So yeah, show Djibouti, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Kenya, like that whole region, and some of Sudan too, which was funny. But anyways, yes, it is being recorded. So we're gonna. Oh, I don't care, man. I don't care if people say I have a big. I know I have a big forehead. I've always had a big forehead since I was a kid. It's fine. I don't care. People can joke, man. I'm a public figure, I guess. Like, it just comes with the territory. I don't mind it. He said, "I'm East African. We start off with that forehead at 3 years old." Well, I know where I got it from. So yeah. Yes, I do have a 5 head. But hey, man, it's part of my. Hey, it's probably tied into my ethnicity and lineage. So I'm proud of it, man. I'll wear it proudly. So as you see from the title, we got a few things to talk about today. Brics nations and XRP usage. I've seen a lot about this. Folks are, ramping up the talk because Brics has talked about moving over to a blockchain-based payment system. I've always been a proponent that at some point the countries that are a part of Brics will indeed benefit from the technology, but there's a problem here that's not being addressed, and this is one of the reasons why I decided to do this video, because Twitter can get overwhelming at times. You get a lot of DMs thrown at you, and I have about 7,000 followers on Twitter. I have about 12,000 plus here. So I figure if I come on here and say it, I'll probably get flooded a little bit less because more people will probably tune in and see this. What are my thoughts on the current development with Brics adopting their own payment system and blockchain and all that jazz, right? Well, I'll tell you what I think, all right? He said that 5K got knowledge. Thanks, I appreciate it. I try. What do I think about that? Well, guys, I think we're in for a wait, okay? And there's several reasons behind that. The first and most obvious reason that I think we're in for a bit of a wait regarding this is because of the sanctions. All right. Now, I think everyone's first line of defense regarding XRP usage and sanctions is going to be, well, it's open source and decentralized, so any country can just hop on the ledger and use it at their leisure, right? And in a perfect world, that's exactly what would happen. Russia, China, Brazil, South Africa, India, etc., would be able to use the technology to interoperate with global economies. Okay. Now, why do sanctions matter if the open source decentralized public good is there for the entire public and it can't be controlled by a centralized entity or government authority? Well, the problem isn't the XRP ledger itself. The actual problem here is the proprietary software that Ripple pitches to its client base in order to settle with other countries, right? So I'll give you an example, okay? And I don't really see anyone touching on this too much, but I do know that there are several people who share my sentiments regarding the sanctions. Now, the problem with that is, let's say you have a conglomerate of folks that, you know, have formed, unbeknownst to us behind the scenes, interoperating with the United States and the UK, right? So basically everyone that's outside of Brics that's affiliated with the US has formed some sort of conglomerate, or they're testing it and seeing how a privatized environment would work for them in a separate ecosystem using Ripple's technology behind the scenes. If you remember what David Schwartz had said at one point, he said one of his goals was to essentially get companies to use Ripple's software, which settles with XRP. Now, the thing is this, in a consortium, if you have Ripple pitching private versions of their open source public mainnets to institutions that want to use it because they're cooperating with one another and they trust one another, then that means more than likely, if they're adopting proprietary software from a US-based company, that they don't have sanctions on them and they can purchase it, and they've created a consortium-based ecosystem where they can transfer value between one another seamlessly. Now, can Russia join in on that? Can any of the Brics countries that may have been sanctioned, that are affiliates of Russia and other countries within Brics, can they participate in that? Well, I'll tell you this much, no, not with Ripple's software they can't. Now, if Brics nations has some sort of developer that decides, you know what, we want to hop on the ledger and we want to build a solution centered around Brics nations, they can do that. Okay, but it's not going to be Ripple based. Okay, so I this is what I mean when I talk about them using the XRP ledger at a massive scale, right? Have we heard anything about a solution being built on the XRP ledger from Brics nations countries? Not, oh, they tested it in 2018, because we know that happened. We went over that, and several other people have touched on that as well. Right, I'm not the only one who knew that they did this. I was just, you know, I did a video on it and printed out a bunch of documents, and we went over all that stuff. But like I said, the thing is that you need to look at here is, what economies globally are the Brics nations going to be interoperating with, and at some point, do they need to do business with the United States of America and its affiliates? All right, that's why I'm saying this. All right, it's bigger than just, oh, maybe someone out of India will build some sort of a solution on the XRP ledger, and then the other countries will follow suit, and then They'll come to some sort of an agreement. They'll, essentially find some sort of a way to clone the XRP ledger code. And then, but see, that's the thing, right? That private CBDC type ledger or ecosystem is being built by Ripple. Okay. So, I mean, can someone else do it? Who knows, right? I'm not saying they can't. I'm saying at the moment, that's the pitch to institutions coming from a US-based company that we can build you a privatized mainnet that's permissioned in nature, that's based off of the public code regarding the XRPL mainnet. Okay. So if that is the case and Ripple is the only one out here doing this, then that means they have to go through Ripple. All right. That means if the sanctions are not lifted on Swift or via Swift, then Russia and other countries that have sanctions against them are not going to be able to use that. Like I said, this isn't doom and gloom. This is just me giving you reality that no one else is going to give you, because everyone else is getting paid to tell you certain things, and their livelihood is based on keeping you feeling good. Okay. I'm not in the business of doing that. I think the world of the technology, I love it. And I think it will do great things in the future, but there are a few things that we have to touch on before we get to the moonboyism. Okay. We already touched on some of the moonboyism and the possibilities because everyone was scared shitless when the lawsuit happened. And so people wanted to jump out of the asset. And I'm like, wait a second, not so fast. This is potentially what this thing is capable of. Do your homework and I'll help you. All right. Now we're at a point where people are suffering from investor fatigue. They don't understand why the price is low. They're saying utility is going to bring, significant price action to the token, but that hasn't happened and people don't understand why. This leads us into the next point. All right. I have for a long time been hypercritical of the correspondent banking system. All right. And it's deeper than just, the banks are bad. It's that the banks are tyrants, essentially. And people have to realize that the banks are using federal regulatory agencies, essentially, to come after fintech companies. And they're not really regulatory agencies. They're the sidearm of the correspondent banking system. Now, people will tell me, T, that's not true. I don't believe that. That's simply your opinion. The banks would never, the government would never let this happen. Our politicians are not controlled by JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, venture capitalist firms, and other entities with large amounts of capital. That's simply not true, and it's blasphemous. Well, you know what? A lot of people didn't think the Iran-Contra scandal, the Tuskegee experiments, MK Ultra, COINTELPRO, Jim Crow, and several other things that our United States government has implemented against the people of its nation were possible. So stop being a naive Boy Scout and realize what you're looking at and what you're dealing with here. Okay. Part of the problem with the lack of understanding regarding why this lawsuit even happened is because people failed to listen to Gary Gensler during his 2018 MIT conference. And I sound like a broken record saying this because I've been saying it on Twitter for I don't know how long now, but I guess I'll give YouTube a dose as well. Gary Gensler already told everyone the playbook. He told you in 2018 that a company like Ripple that was introducing some sort of a public blockchain with the neutral bridge asset that could convert currencies between two different nations would have to pay the toll, essentially, that they would have to give up ownership of their company. Maybe that ownership giving up looks something like a native token of a blockchain. Maybe that ownership that's going to be transferred is something to the tune of 50% of what they hold to the top 20 banks in the world. If you don't think that JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs falls underneath that, folks, you are sorely mistaken. And those are two of the top correspondent banks in the world. Okay. By the way, keep in mind, if you look at Swift's board of directors, the first person that shows up on the website is someone from JP Morgan. I'm not going to tell you who it is. I want you to go look at the website and see who their board of directors are and where they came from. Okay. I also want you to go and find the documentation that I posted. Don't look at my Twitter. That's cheating. Where it shows that JP Morgan accounts for over half of Swift's CBPR plus message trafficking. That's interesting, right? So the majority of the cross-border payment messages that are facilitated through SWIFT come from one ginormous correspondent bank. And this is the SWIFT conglomerate, the telecommunications society that's doing this. Now, mind you, Ripple, as a centralized company, uses XRP in their ODL business model to make money. Okay? I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying it is what it is. Okay? That's what they do. All right? Until there is a large enough demand for the asset for them to essentially sell or somehow reallocate that escrowed XRP over to the big boys with big money. The problem with that is that that's never going to happen as long as they hold that much in the escrow. Now, people are free to disagree with me, tell me I'm crazy, you got a big ass forehead, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 whatever, right? I don't really care, okay? Because I'm willing to bet if I placed a bet out here for 5,000 XRP that you wouldn't see XRP past the all-time high until you saw a reallocation of that escrow. No one would take the bet. And if I won the bet, no one would pay up. So, with that being said, what do I think needs to happen regarding that? Regarding Brics usage, all of that stuff. I think what you need to see is the reallocation of the escrow. Now, I think that happens at some point, but Ripple is not going to do it right now. Okay, they're in a fight. All right, and I understand it from Ripple's point of view. You know, they're probably sitting back like, why the hell do we have to give up our war chest that's funding us essentially while we build the foundational groundwork to make all of the great things that we want to make happen in the future come true? Why should we have to do that? Because make no mistake about it, JP Morgan doesn't want to buy it. The correspondent banks don't want to buy it. They want it gifted to them. Okay. And I'm going to tell you something else that the correspondent banks are not going to tell you. The other part of that is that they also want Ripple, their executives, to come off of some of the XRP that they own. You know, the whole Chris Larson and these folks having like hundreds of millions, maybe even 1 billion plus tokens for themselves. Come on, man. There's no way that you're going to see these institutions jump in and acquire this stuff. And then obviously, you know, the foreign exchange aspect, the volume, the multiple use cases, the hodling, which is most important of the asset with low sell pressure happens. And then Chris Larson and these folks end up trillionaires. Unless the intention is for them to become the next Rothschilds, essentially, without being related, right? Because maybe that's a possibility as well. But I think they're going to try to put something within legislation or regulations that state that if you're an executive at a fintech company, you can't just gift yourself 1 billion plus tokens personally, that there's going to be a cap out. And I think it's going to be retroactive in the legislation. And I think it's going to target specifically folks like David Schwartz, Brad Garlinghouse, and Chris Larson. And whatever they have that they gifted themselves, they're going to have to come up off of until they reach a certain amount that's satisfactory to the legislators. And that regulation or law, is going to be put forward by the banks. The banks are going to tell Congress what to do. That's why you haven't seen comprehensive stablecoin. Listen, we've been here talking about this stuff for years. I've been on Facebook for even longer talking about this stuff, talking about regs and law. And it still hasn't happened. Not to the tune of stablecoin legislation and regs, not to the tune of comprehensive regulatory framework being laid out globally. None of that. None of it's happened. And people can tell me I'm crazy and I don't know what I'm talking about, but go listen to your savior, Brad Garlinghouse, tell you. Don't listen to me. Listen to David Schwartz tell you. We don't have enough clarity regarding regulations or legislation. Go listen to Gary Gensler tell Congress, well, he needs you guys to do something about this. You guys aren't passing law. Why do you think that is? They're all, and by the way, Gary Gensler and Congress are all in on it together. They all essentially work for the banks, okay? They know exactly why it hasn't been passed because the banks haven't told them to do it yet. So that's the thing, right? You have to realize how much power these banks have. Okay, and I think a lot of people underestimate the banks because when they see a bank, they're thinking, oh, Wells Fargo or Navy Federal or, you know, Alaska Credit Union or some crap like that, right? When we're talking about correspondent banks, and you're talking about entities that are way beyond what you see in front of your nose. Okay. Oh, I don't, it has nothing to do. Well, that's the thing, right? The banks more than likely will have advanced buy orders in on crypto before you and I do regarding super big buys, right? I don't know what the banks hold because keep in mind they can have subsidiaries out there where they're gearing up for purchases as well, right? But legally, right now, those entities can't hold it technically, and they can't hold it. I'm going to tell you something, and people aren't going to believe this. Ripple themselves is holding up the don't believe me if you want to, but Ripple themselves is holding up the progress unintentionally, because I don't think they're doing it on purpose, of other utility coins and networks. I mean, there's obviously technological stuff as well that needs to be ironed out. But in terms of like that price action that you want to see, none of the, you have to remember, right? In order for this to work, it's going to take several different assets, not one. XRP can't do it alone. So it needs, that protocol is going to need several others to interoperate with it to make what we've been talking about for years to happen, right? So with that being said, they're the only ones that are a centralized company, Ripple, that hold over half of the total supply in their escrow account. Now, people will say, well, Ripple doesn't hold it directly, blah, 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 blah. Even though David Schwartz and Arthur Britto founded Polyson, I mean, come on, folks. Like, we're not naive here, all right? Tomato, tomato, semantics, etc. Like, we know what it is, okay? And like I said, I'm not saying that's a bad thing because I understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. But at some point, there's going to have to be some middle ground met here, meaning there's going to have to be a conversation that happens again behind the scenes between Ripple's top executives and leadership and the correspondent banking system. And I can tell you right now, the goal of the correspondent system by leveraging regulatory agencies against Ripple and dragging them through this type of a financial fight is to bleed them. They've already spent over 200 million. They have $1 billion cash. You don't think the SEC can try and stretch this out to spend that $1 billion cash that they have? Because they can do it. Stuart Alderati would be more than happy to keep collecting money regarding this legal fight. I'm just saying, we have to think realistically here. And if they do that, the bad thing about that is that at some point they could put Ripple in dire straits financially, to the point where maybe it gets so bad, maybe you see a correspondent bank swoop in and try to acquire them for a cheaper price. And then all that juicy proprietary software regarding messaging and maybe whatever they have left in escrow, maybe it gets turned over to another entity. Maybe that entity starts with the J and ends with an N. Maybe it starts with the G and ends with an S. Maybe it's a combination of all of them, right, that are in on this. I'm just saying. Access World, yeah, we're still talking about quite a few things. If you don't want to talk about it, hop off the street, man. You know what I'm here for. You know what I'm about. If you don't want to hear it, feel free to go to another channel, man. You're acting like I'm on here every day. No one forced you to be here. No one forced any of you to be here. HBAR and XTC, I mean, I think they're great protocols. What do you want to know about them? The security aspect, the hashing capabilities, and the gossip protocol regarding Hedera or the global trade finance utility, the currency function and smart contract application, and Dassel Bridge regarding the XDC network. I mean, what do you want to know about them? Do you need me to reassure you that they're good investments? Is that what you're asking me? Oh, speaking of XDC, no, I'm not going to tell you the good news about it. Go do your homework. That's the whole reason I started doing content, was so that you guys would get to a point eventually where I could take the training wheels off and folks would think for themselves regarding this subject. Go Google XDC and Trade Enabler. There we go. I'll give you a little bit of a hint. And tell me what you see on page 3 of the Trade Enabler article regarding a certain large entity. Don't tell the fucking person. Why'd you do that? Don't give it away. No worries. I wanted them to go out there and look for it instead of being like, tell me about my investment. You know, like, I'm not a financial advisor, man. What am I going to tell you? Yes, guys, their Trade Enabler is going to essentially integrate Swift with the XDC network. And people told me I was crazy about that too. And people will say stupid stuff like, oh, it's only 2.6 cents, instead of going and buying some. Like, all right, man, you guys have no patience whatsoever. Well, good news is supposed to mean it's going to happen tomorrow. Okay, keep that up. And then when it happens and you get caught with your pants down, you're going to be sick of yourself. The forehead jokes, yeah, I know, right? They are pretty funny, especially when you have a big forehead and still look good and have a good career. I'm just saying, right? I can make jokies too. Oh, all right. So, since XDC news with Swift is a... Dude, come on, man. Why do you guys, no disrespect, why do you guys do that? What do you mean, is it a better investment than XRP? Why does it have to be better? Like, why do you have to, someone asked me this today. Because Baggins, the homie Baggins on Twitter was like, XRP may not see movement this cycle, and you need to be mentally prepared for that because of the things that I talked about. It doesn't mean it won't happen, but it's always a possibility. And someone asked me today, they said, well, why are you hypothetically still in XRP if you don't think it's going to see movement this cycle? I'm like, do you think people invest in stuff for one cycle? Oh, let me rephrase that. Do you think savvy investors invest in something hoping to catch one bull run? This is the only space I've seen that. This is the only space where I've seen oversaturation of news regarding certain assets. Like, they don't do that in the stock market world for mutual funds or any of this stuff. I didn't see this crap until I got into crypto, and that's why I stopped doing it, because I'm like, Jesus, man, like, do people need that much reassurance? Maybe it's because of the volatile nature of the market. Like, it's much more volatile than stocks, so maybe people are scared and they need, you know, the constant pick-me-ups and pep talks and help me please, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm relatively new to this. I don't understand tech. I get that, but just say that, right? Don't ask me, oh, well, why are you still in it? Why can't I hypothetically buy both? Why? It's that you're telling me, well, you should shift into another investment. How do you know I haven't? Maybe I can afford to buy multiple assets. Maybe XRP could be a long back. I'm saying. IQ has dropped since COVID. No, man, people, you know what? People aren't stupid. They're lazy. There's a difference, right? These folks aren't retarded, man. They know better than this. All right. They're just being lazy mentally. Yeah, so I mean, those are kind of my thoughts, man. Like I said, I'm not going to stay on here and blab the entire time for like 3 hours. It's not really much to say, man, outside of, you're not going to, in my opinion, The crazy numbers you want to see in utility assets won't happen until they can get what may serve essentially as the liquidity heartbeat, interconnecting all of these other protocols to it and to one another, obviously in the form of the XRP token, which sits on the XRP ledger, out of Ripple's hands, at least I wouldn't say the majority of it, but at least half of it, right? And like I said, I think once that happens, it's off to the races at that point. And then that's when the banks will say, bingo, we got it. We got half of it. Now we're going to signal Congress and the OFAC and the Treasury and the CFTC and all these other bodies essentially to get together with Congress. And they're all going to work together and create and lay out regulatory framework and law. And that's when it'll be implemented. I'll take a bet on that. The moment you see Ripple concede, not to the SEC, but to the banks that are essentially leveraging the SEC, and they come off that escrow, it's going to get wild, in my humble opinion. You can think they don't want XRP all you want. Gary Ginn's already fucking told you, man. Excuse my French. Like I said, get off my channel. Get off my channel. Go away. Just go away, man. Like, and I'm not even trying to be disrespectful. You just go away, man. Like I said, the man already named the company by name and said subliminally what they'd have to do to succeed, and they're fighting it. All right. It ain't that they don't want it. It's that they do want it. What are you like? Where do you guys come from, man? Like, what are you looking at? Like, are you comprehending what you're seeing in front of you? We didn't want it. They absolutely want several of these digital assets, and if they can't control it because a centralized company holds over half of it, they're going to try to destroy it and leverage regulatory bodies to do it. Like, what movie are you watching? Stuff like that is like me coming outside and someone saying, "Hey, T, the sky's purple." I look up, what do I see? That look purple to you? No, it doesn't. Go away. Like I said, I'm not even going to entertain that. You got to be out of your mind, man, to say something crazy like that when the man himself that's suing the company currently and still going after him and leading the charge told you different. Like, see, that's what I'm saying, man. What does that have to... No, we're going to read this. Dude, 40% is in the market. They can print money. What is... You're not talking to me, are you? What does that even mean? What does them printing money have to do with them wanting control over a liquidity-based asset that's attached to an open source public good that's got a built-in decentralized exchange that all these other fintech companies and protocols are trying to interoperate with? What are you talking about is the question. And why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you even listening to me at this point? Because clearly you're not listening to comprehend. No, they can't, man. All right? For the last 100th time. How many companies are holding crypto on their freaking balance sheets that are correspondent banks? Do you not understand what the BIS mandate is for these institutions? What are you talking about? They could just go and buy it. Where are they going to hold it? Does everyone have a custody solution built out where they can put the crypto? What are you talking about, man? What? Oh, I did. Excuse me. My bad. We already have comprehensive stablecoin and CBDC legislation and regs rolled out where they have the institutional off and on ramps, right? You see, this is what I'm talking about. Now I'm going to make an example out of you because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And you're coming out here trying to grandstand and you sound moronic, all right? Don't do that to yourself on my channel. I'm asking you respectfully not to do that. Because it doesn't make any sense what you're saying. And then I have to like raise my voice to get my point across. And it's stupid. That's just stupid, man. You have admin, get him off the channel. You can go somewhere else. Like I said, it's just, don't listen to stuff like that. Because here's a pleb that's coming on here that has no idea what the hell they're looking at. That's some sort of Reddit era gambler investor that just jumped into the space and you don't have a damn clue what's going on around you. Go away. Okay, since admin doesn't want to remove him, Fine, I'll remove you. You're gone. Thanks, admin, for doing your job. I did say people aren't stupid, but that guy's stupid. People, let me say this. People aren't stupid for not knowing. They're stupid for doing that, for coming on here and saying stupid shit like they do now. You don't know what you're talking about, clearly. And he's trying to pass his skewed, messed up opinion as fact. We don't do that here, all right? It has nothing to do with a lack of understanding. It has to do with grandstanding and trying to debate and argue a point that's a mute point, okay? That's totally different, all right? It'd be different if he was like, hey, man, I'm under the impression that the banks don't want it. What do you think about that? That's not what he did. He's like, the banks don't want it. It's stupid, blah, blah, blah. And then he start rambling off and talking junk about the asset. I don't have a problem if you have a perspective that's different from mine, but be educated about it, all right? And be mature about it. He didn't do that. I'm not going to waste my time sitting here explaining myself to someone when they're not listening to learn, all right? And that's part of the problem, is that people don't like the messenger that's saying it. I could say one thing, Gary Gensler could say it, and because it came out of Gary Gensler's mouth, oh, it's true. You know, that guy looks like he knows what he's talking about. But this T character, even though he just repeated what Gary said and he laid out the playbook and said that a company like Ripple that had a neutral bridge asset that was attached to an open source blockchain that the banks would obviously want to move with at some point and use to essentially approve their settlement systems behind the scenes because they're archaic and old, would have to pay a toll essentially to the tune of 50% of ownership, maybe in the form of their native token. But Gary, if he would have watched a video with Gary saying that, he wouldn't have said what he just said to me, to Gary Gensler. He would have hated up. But because Mr. T said it, I'm wrong. But we've had those conversations before now, haven't we? You need to take your little bullshit microaggressions and go somewhere else. And go troll on someone else's channel. I don't want to hear it. Simple as that. So, with that being said, that's what you're gonna have to deal with, man. In the meantime, you're waiting on the banks to be able to get a foothold on one of the only centralized companies out there that holds powerful proprietary messaging software and leverages a foreign exchange based exchange mechanism type asset that they want control over. If they don't have that control, you're not going to see much happen, especially with the negative press and dark legal cloud that's been hanging over the company, right? Because people automatically associate the company with the token. So you're not going to see the type of speculative dollars flow into the asset that you would have seen maybe 10 years ago or so, right? They made sure of that. That was strategic, that they were going to put that negative cloud over the company and the asset so that, like I said, big money wouldn't flow into it. And now it's to a point where in order to see the type of numbers you want to see from it, you're going to need institutional capital to flow into it. And those regs and legislation will not be passed until they have control somewhat over what Ripple holds in the app. Like I said, man, it's fine if you don't believe me. That's okay, right? Because who am I? I'm Tish Muckatelli. What do I know, right? But I can tell you this. If this fight keeps on for a few more years, and you don't see that price appreciate, you'll remember this live. You'll also remember it if they do find a way to essentially reallocate a good portion of what they have in that escrow, and then the secondary market starts getting flooded because folks have to compete, or not just compete, but stay in tune and in line with the top correspondent banks that they're subservient to. And then that's when you start seeing the exchange purchases go up. And then that's when that pesky volume starts running up. And then maybe, just maybe, you see that market cap run up too, right? Like I said, people laugh at me behind the scenes. They'll say I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, he's just T. He's just a dumb boy. I'm just a dumb boy, ain't I? Ain't I, boss? I was just dumb. I don't know what I was talking about. I just come on here and talk crypto. Okay, watch what happens. I told people XDC was going to get institutional interest and integration before XRP did, didn't I? What happened? What did Swift come out and say via Trade Enabler, or what did Trade Enabler say via Swift integration, or XTC integration with the Swift network? Like I said, I don't know what I'm talking about. Like I said, don't listen to me. I'm just retarded. They're going to give up the escrow. They're going to give up the escrow, or the top brass at Ripple will be ruined. That's what's going to happen. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. That escrow will not. Here's the thing. They don't have to give it all up. They're going to give a significant portion of it up, though. And if they don't, like I said, their leadership can say bye-bye. Or the SEC and other agencies will band together alongside the correspondent system to make sure that they go bankrupt and then they acquire the company. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. In the end, the sad reality of it is that they'll lose, but holders of the asset will win regardless. They're not going to be allowed to hold that much in that escrow account, man. They're not. Either they're going to come up off of it by their own merit, or they're going to be forced somehow to do so. You don't need to. Okay, folks, respectfully, let me explain this. Burning the escrow is not a thing. All right, that doesn't. The only way you would see XRP go up in price during an escrow burn is if they burned it, and then immediately after, institutions had advanced buy orders in to essentially wipe it from the secondary market. So like it'd have to happen like back to back. Like they burn it, and then folks say, all right, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, HSBC, Santander, Royal Bank of Canada, et cetera, we got to get together and hit the exchanges and get it now. And then that's when you would see the price accumulate. And do you know why? Because the escrow isn't accounted for in the circulating supply. So they could burn it today. And if you didn't see that secondary market purchase happen aggressively, it would still be at 50-something cents. Yes, they do hold the most. And for price appreciation, yes, it's holding it up. But here's the thing with that, okay? I'm going to tell you why I'm not fully complaining about them doing what they're doing with the escrow. Part of the reason why I don't mind it is because I understand what their goal is with ODL temporarily, right? I don't think ODL is the end-all be-all. I think it's a showcase, okay? And I think what they're doing with their current business model is they're laying railroad tracks essentially before they put the train cars on it. All right. It's foundational building. All right. And you have to lay rails before you put trains on them. Okay. So I think all of this is strategic in nature to kind of show what it's capable of. And then obviously the top correspondent banks, the big wigs, know what it's capable of because they already tested it, man. That's the thing, man. All right. I don't want to be a broken record here, which is why I don't really do content like that anymore. But come on, man. Like the top banks back in 2016 already did a Nostro account replacement test for the asset. You know what they did essentially, for those of you who don't understand that? They said, ooh, there's a fintech company out here peddling something. Are they going to compete with us? If so, why don't we tell them we'll test their stuff out and see just how good they are? Let's see just how they circumvent us and put us out of business potentially. Yeah, we'll take that token. Yeah, give us a copy of the ledger. All right, let's run this. Oh my God. You see what this thing did? Yeah, I saw it, man. I think they can put us out of business and circumvent the Nostro accounts that we rape all these subservient banks for fees on. Well, can't we adopt it and just essentially control that market as well? Well, there's a problem with that. You see, those guys over there at Ripple hold about I don't know, man, like half of all of the supply in existence. Shit, they do, don't they? Crap. We're not going to be able to monopolize on this, man. Well, let's see if they'll give it up. All right, JP Morgan, hey, man, you guys call a meeting with them and go sit down with the execs and see what they'd be willing to do for that escrow. Hey, man, maybe if, they scratch our backs, we could scratch their backs. All right, yeah, we'll have a meeting with them. Hey, what's going on, Brad? What's going on, Chris? What's going on, Jeb? Hey, yeah, let's sit down. Yeah, so about that asset that we tested out that was able to circumvent. Oh, I'm not, not circumvent. I mean, it served as a temporary replacement during testing for Nostro accounts. Yeah, we really like that. I know, you guys sell it, but is there a way, like, you'd be willing to, like, I don't know, give us 50% of that asset, maybe? We could really use it. And, we are the largest correspondent bank in the world. Maybe, you hook us up. We can hook you guys up. Here's Ripple. And what do you think JP Morgan and the boys did after that? But I'm the stupid one. I'm the one that doesn't know what I'm talking about. That meeting's documented, by the way, too. There's one that wasn't documented that I heard about from an insider that I'm not going to name. And then there was another one that Brad Garlinghouse came out of his own mouth and stated that they had, where the executives came into their office and sat down. And what do you think they talked about? Jesus, man. Like I said, I don't know. Like I said, I was just here. I was just happy to be here talking for everybody, boss. Right? Yeah. Okay. Like I said, a lot of you are going to learn the hard way because you don't like the messenger that's spitting the message, when it's already been repeated to you by people who don't look like me, who make a lot more money than me. But like I said, I'm just a translator, man. For folks who can't understand what Gary Gensler and the rest of his boys and cronies are out here telling you. Be patient. Be patient. That's all you need. You don't need me coming on here all the time. You don't need anyone in this space to tell you anything if you already understand the fundamentals. You don't. You don't need to pay for Udemy's. You don't need academies. You don't need discords that are charging you and raping your pockets. You just need common sense and a basic understanding of how the correspondent system works, and you'll be just fine. What's up, B? What's going down? Oh, how am I feeling? I'm feeling all right. I got my little cyborg, give me a sec. Let me turn this thing around. I got my little cyborg arm on. A little surgery scar. Oh, look at that. So yeah, I'm recovering. I'll be back in the gym soon enough. Everybody at work calls me the cyborg now. Now I'm a T800. I know I got the Bucky Barnes arm. Yeah, so those are my thoughts, man. Like I said, look, man, people, I'm okay with people telling me I'm wrong, because I don't always say what people want to hear, and people don't understand what I'm saying until it usually happens. Just like people couldn't understand the correlation between crypto payments and messaging, and then that became a thing. People couldn't understand me talking about smart contracts eventually coming onto the XRP ledger and Stellar blockchain a week after I said it on the whiteboard. What was the news that came out that Digital Perspectives himself posted? That was an announcement that happened that day, literally almost 10 days to the T. I made the prediction. Oh, we're flowing smart contracts onto the Stellar blockchain, right? What was the next announcement? About the sidechain interop and EVM interop, right? I should say the EVM sidechain. I'm just saying, I'm not saying I call everything, but look, man, all right? Someone had just came in here in the beginning of the video and was like, dang, man, the stuff you were talking about with Hedera and Stellar, it came true. Like I said, man, you don't have to listen to me. You could take that attitude and say, I'm just T. Schmuckatelli, and you know what? This guy's retarded and whatever the hell else, right? It's not going to hurt me one way or another. If you choose to listen or you don't, but you know who it will hurt? It'll hurt you. All right? So just remember that, all right? Like I said, there's something to be said about someone who's been doing crypto content since 2019, I think, via Facebook, and then obviously I came in this direction and started doing it on YouTube. I think in 2020, 2, something like that. But I've been around doing financial content. Get out of here, bug. Go. For the better part of almost 8 years between different platforms. Started off with stocks and all that good stuff. Palantir was my baby for years. Still is. Before I even got into the crypto space. And then, obviously, Palantir launching the Foundry project, incorporating the Oracle database with AI and machine learning, essentially, and then the interoperating with blockchain tech led me, essentially, to start doing crypto content as well. So there were several things that led me to the space, and I'm one of the few, like I said, I'm proud to say it, that I don't charge. All of this stuff is free. I'll never charge you for anything. You'll never be charged. I don't even have my own Discord. So let's start there, right? That Discord was built by, the fam. All of the Discords that I'm a part of. They're not even mine. I'm just there. So remember that you have someone out here that's breaking it down kindergarten style for you with not only how the tech works, but how these psychopathic banks work, think, and control things, okay? Down to our own legislators, all right? No one else is going to tell you that. Brad Garlinghouse and them aren't even going to tell you that the SEC is being leveraged by big banks to stifle them until they can control the majority of the asset that they hold in the escrow. And part of the reason they don't say that is because if they do, they're alienating the same client base that they're trying to cozy up to. The other side of that is if they tell you that and say, we don't want to give up the escrow, they know they've lost retail. If Brad and David came out right now and said, you know what, man, the real reason this is happening is because the top correspondent banks that a lot of the SEC banking lobbyists used to work for are doing the bank's bidding, essentially, because they're trying to get us to come off of half of our escrow, and we don't want to do it, and we're not going to do it, and we're going to fight tooth and nail until we can't fight anymore. Most of you would sell. You wouldn't be thinking beyond the, maybe they'll get acquired or they'll be forced and beaten into submission by the top correspondent banks and have to come off of it anyways. Most people don't think like that. Most people don't think any further than this. They don't, because they can't, because they've been conditioned and programmed to think that way for the short term, based off of their emotions and how they feel. These banks don't feel, okay? They don't care about you. They don't care about Ripple. They care about their bottom line and their power. So, I believe, so you're asking price talk about XRP, and what I believe essentially is really the gist of that. I believe, and I've always said this, if Ripple plays ball, if they come off of that escrow, a portion of it, because I hate to say that, man, because I'll say this, while the escrow is a subject of annoyance to most people, I told Brad on Twitter, and he probably didn't even see it because I'm insignificant, but I told Brad, I said, I think what you guys are doing, even though it's annoying because I know what the banks ultimately want, the top banks, I think it's admirable. I think it's extremely admirable that they're standing against the machine and fighting the system the way that they are while actually trying to integrate with it as well, right? What they're basically trying to tell the correspondent banks is, hey, look, all right, it's the equivalent of telling someone you can correct me, but you're going to respect me. You're not going to berate me and demean me, right? That's kind of what they're doing. Like, hey, we'll do business with you, but you're not going to disrespect us. And we're not just going to take it lying down, all right? You're not going to crush our business model, essentially, to benefit yourselves so that you can have control. Because here's the thing. What do you think is going to happen once the top correspondent brass gets a hold of the XRP and the escrow that they want? Maybe there's a certain tool out there attached to XLS30D in the form of an automated market maker that's attached to global public liquidity pools that are attached to the XRP Ledger's decentralized exchange that may or may not have pairs that offer incentives to the contributors. Do you not think that an institution as large as JP Morgan can afford to take the risk for impermanent and even permanent loss, acquire the hell out of that token, and then all the other banks that are subservient to these top correspondent brass style banks see, holy cow, the high value payment style institutions are going out here and acquiring this stuff. Custody framework, DeFi regulations and legislation have been laid out. We have stablecoin regulations and legislation for off and on ramps laid out because the banks, the big banks, went and told Congress, now that we have control over this amount of the asset, go ahead and do our bidding and put those laws and regs out that are going to benefit us. And then what do you think happens after that happens to the XRP that's on the secondary market? I'm not saying they go out there and buy it all, right? Because then there would be none on the market, right? I don't believe it goes to zero. But I wouldn't be shocked to see maybe, I don't know, man, you know, maybe 700 million or so XRP once, you know, the subservient banks that serve under the top correspondent banks start going out there and purchasing up, you know, what they need to essentially stay in line with the system. XRP Chiz had lyrics in his theme song where he'd say, correspondent banking coming to an end. I don't think it comes to an end. I think it evolves and integrates other things once they're able to control one of the most important parts of it. I don't think it ends. Folks, okay, and that's another thing. He asked, or he or she, or he asked, Arizona Ron, what's up, man? I haven't seen you in a while. He said, forgive me if this has been asked before, but why is the need for an XRP if there's an RLUSD? Well, because they're different things. One's an on-ramp or an off-ramp, and the other is an exchange mechanism. That's kind of like the question that was asked, what the heck is that protocol? Is it Alveda or something like that? I can't remember the freaking name of it. I know what it does, though. It's a cross-chain communicative protocol that essentially bands together multiple blockchain networks, right? And people were like, oh, well, is this going to replace XRP? No, man, no. It's totally different, all right? RLUSD is not a neutral bridge asset. That's not its purpose. It's not going to convert currency on its back from one native currency to another. It's also not going to be used to swap OTC derivatives unless there's purchases made. Now, the swapping that happens will be done on the back of the XRP token, more than likely. I'm not saying anything definitive, but I have reason to believe, and you guys already know the reasonings behind that, that eventually the derivatives market, a portion of it, is shared between multiple fintechs. It won't just be like Ripple, right? That's participating in that. But yeah, one's a tokenized version of fiat, the other's a neutral bridge asset. They're not the same, and one's not going to replace the other. And that's the simplest answer I can give you, and as a matter of fact, they'll complement each other, more than likely. So you don't really have anything to worry about on that front. Said, that's a funny comment. He said, forget the tech. You've explained that enough. Now we want to know your conspiracy theory ideas. You've been right about a lot of stuff. Conspiracy, okay, you got to be specific because I have a lot of them. Because I'm a bit crazy. Full transparency. What conspiracy theories do you want me to talk about that are crypto related? Yeah, Swift ain't going nowhere. Man, I've been telling people this for years. I don't know where folks have been at, no disrespect, but man, I've been saying Swift is going nowhere. They wouldn't have a CCIP interface being built so that they could interface with blockchain tech if they were just going to fall out of the sky and die. Nah, man, it's Swift. JP Morgan accounts for half of the cross-border payment traffic on the Swift network. So ask yourself this: when you say, "Hey, man, I think Swift's going away," do you think JP Morgan's going to go away? Nope. Will RLUSD usage make XRP go up? It depends, right? All right, so, and this is the stuff like that you'll get here that you're probably not going to get on other channels, right? And I have to toot my own horn just a tad. When I say that, because most channels will tell you utility will make the token go up. Well, what utility? Well, utility usage. Well, isn't it being used right now? Well, they just have to use it more. Wrong. That's wrong, right? Volume alone, transactional volume isn't enough on its own. I've always said there's another component to that. They need to hold it. They need to build financial products off of the token, and they have to hold it long term, and they have to acquire it and hold it, right? You can't just, if this were the case, all that they need to do is essentially tell all the core, well, first of all, Ripple holding half of the supply, it ain't gonna happen until they don't hold it anymore. And then the other thing with the sanctions that I talked about, depending on who the president is, I can tell you this, I'm not for either candidate. I'll be 100% honest. But I can tell you this, there is one candidate that I know for a fact, if they get in office, they're going to undo everything that Biden did. And you know, one of the things that Biden did, take a guess. What else did Biden do that was detrimental to crypto? Without folks even realizing it. What did Biden do? It's a homework assignment. Don't worry, because I'm going to give you the answer anyways. The sanctions. Biden issued sanctions against BRICS nation, or well, Russia mainly, due to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, financial sanctions, right? Those sanctions, though, here's where everyone got confused. When those sanctions were implemented and crypto was at the epicenter of relief aid to Ukraine, everyone thought, holy cow, they can use this essentially to circumvent. The problem is that crypto wasn't being sent to institutions for relief. It was being sent to citizens, okay, who probably had their own private wallets, all right, in Russia and in Ukraine, okay? So with that being said, you weren't going to see institutional adoption or acquisition of the asset for the purpose of circumventing SWIFT because, like I said earlier, you have Ripple is one of those type of companies, fintech companies that believes in trying to conglomerate folks. So they're going out to banks after banks after banks, and they're trying to get them together to more than likely agree on a certain tech stack where these banks can talk to each other in an ecosystem, right? And obviously you have something like the XRP ledger that can bridge certain gaps, but here's the thing, right? If there's a whole nother component to that, right? With cross-chain communicative abilities that has to be addressed as well, because you're not gonna use XRP in its pure form on another chain that isn't based on the XRPL code, right? So that's a whole other conversation we're not gonna have right now, but to make matters short, I have a feeling if a certain somebody gets in office, those sanctions will be lifted immediately because he is also friendly with Putin. So I don't think that stands. And then I think once that happens, then I think after that comes the conversation with Ripple sitting down with the top correspondent brass and saying, hey, you want to revisit this? And maybe they come to some sort of an agreement where there's a significant amount of ownership transferred over of said escrow because they don't want to lose their bottom line as a company and they don't want to be put in the dirt, all right? And those banks have the power to do that. And if you don't think they do, you need to go do your homework on what these banks are about and the lengths that they'll go to. If you don't think that the conflict between Israel and Palestine, I'm not going to say Hamas because it ain't just Hamas, all right? If you don't think that's a product of large banks, correspondent banks, you're sorely mistaken. And the sad part about this is that people will look at that and they'll say, oh, well, you know, what about the central banks? You know, maybe it's them. Who do you think created the central banks? You ever read The Creature of Jekyll Island? I'm just saying, if we're going to put the tinfoil hats on, if I'm not mistaken, JP Morgan had a hand in creating the Federal Reserve. So, who do you think is more powerful? Yeah, exactly. It's not being held, right? And then that's the thing, right? So if all that happened and then all these countries adopted ODO and just used it for the duration of the transaction, which is 3 to 5 seconds, you think people are going to get rich because it's going to go up super high in price because they're transacting more? No, because it's not being held. It's still being accounted for in the circulating supply. You need that to dwindle. How do you get that to dwindle? I have a few ideas, right? I'm just saying, like it's not. People have come. Ooh, my arm. Woo. People have come into the crypto community and they've made a lot of money unfairly off of people by saying a lot of gibberish and word salad without getting straight to the point. All right, because people don't understand the market and they don't understand the tech and they don't understand basic supply and demand principles. It doesn't make you stupid. It just means that you don't understand stuff yet. No one's stupid because they don't understand. All right, like I said, I called the guy stupid earlier because he's being an idiot troll. All right, he's coming on here matter of factly cocky with his chest poked out and he had no clue what he was talking about. So yes, he got removed from the channel. All right, but those of you who may not understand certain components, you're not dumb for that. Okay, it's not common knowledge, and they made it that way on purpose. You're not supposed to understand. The fact that you're on this channel, you're already 100 steps ahead of the average American citizen. A flip of the switch moment? I don't know. I like it. I like the theory behind it that, you'd wake up one day and be like, holy cow. That I'll say this, it could happen if the right things happen, right? You'd have to see a series of things happen though. Like the best thing I could say is it'd be gradual until it's not. Right? Like you'd see small steps, the steps would get bigger, and then it'd be like a boom, boom, and it'd be like, oh, snap. And then I think people will be shocked. But they won't understand that it's been gradual, but when it happens, it won't seem like it was gradual. It'll kind of just be like a big kaboom out of nowhere. No, I don't think the U.S. is waiting for the rest of the world. I think they're waiting for control over what's in that escrow. It all boils down to that. Like I said, they're one of the most important fintech companies out there, leveraging the only exchange neutral bridge asset that's attached to a built-in DEX on its native protocol. It's the DEX is native to the ledger, right? So look, I know that there's other automated market makers and liquidity pools and DEXs, but none of these other protocols have a native DEX built in that has institutional interest. ERC20 doesn't even have that. They use Uniswap. I mean, so that's not native to the ERC20 network. It's a third party, and it's highly inefficient, which means that more than likely Ethereum's network is not going to be selected alongside the token to serve high-value payment institutions cross-border between multiple chains for the purpose of converting currencies as a neutral bridge. That's not going to be the choice for it, right? Does it mean ERC20 is going to just die out of nowhere, but it ain't going to be used for that. Yeah, I like algo. I like a lot of the utility assets, man. My mind hasn't changed about any of those that we've talked about. I think they're all quality and good protocols, and they're going to have usage in the future. It's just a matter of what do you think? It's not about what I think. Look, man, I'm just entertainment, truth be told, right? I'm not some messiah. I'm not some leader. I'm just a guy that's giving you his opinion, all right? Now, it doesn't mean that I haven't been right about a few things here and there, but it's about what you think. It's about what your research has told you. It's about what you've gone out there and seen that's telling you that it's quality, right? All I can do is open the door, but in the end, you all have to walk through it yourselves. So on that note, if we don't have anything else, man, I think I've said enough and rambled long enough. Good luck to you guys. Good luck to everyone in the future. good luck to being able to maintain the mental fortitude to be able to hold on to this stuff without succumbing to the fear and the doubt that's going to plague you in this space until it's not, right? This is why I always say, man, make sure that you guys are doing your own research and figuring this stuff out and having your own aha light bulb moments, right? All right. Now, let me make sure I didn't miss anything significant in here. Someone said, even if sanctions are lifted, the damage is already done in terms of trust. Brics currency already on the move. Well, here's the thing, right? No, because it's business at the end of the day. And these countries understand that, right? I don't think they're going to take it personal. I think they're going to use it because here's the thing, right? As much as you think these countries hate each other, they need each other, all right? Russia needs the U.S. and vice versa. People just don't realize it, okay? But a lot of these economies globally interoperate with one another. It's not a scenario where China... Come on, man. They all sit on the freaking G20 together. And we really have folks here believing that these guys hate each other, right? This ain't the Middle East, man, all right? These developed countries don't... No, you can go ahead and go on. I'm just shooting a video. Well, not a video, a live video. But yeah, man, these countries don't hate each other, man. That's BS. All right. Don't buy into that narrative. The moment when the moment comes that they can do something that's going to benefit their system and their bottom line dollar-wise, they're going to do it. Regardless of bad blood due to sanctions. Ripple didn't implement those sanctions against them. Remember that. The XRP ledger didn't implement those sanctions against them. Remember that. The damage has been done by the U.S. government. Ripple is not the U.S. government. The proprietary software that they're selling is not linked to the President of the United States. He just controls the sanctions, essentially, that he enacted against certain countries. All right? This ain't a personal thing against the tech. So just remember that. All right, guys. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here because... No, it's not a kids' camp. It's a park. Yeah, I always come to the park to shoot my vids, man. Especially when it's nice outside. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and charge my phone and get off of here. Stay safe. Stay mentally strong, man. And you guys got this. Peace.